Alright, everybody. So, Wally the Wizard, Rachel the Rogue, Connie the Cleric, and Fred the Fighter. They were kind of. They had come back to Red Larch after one of their missions. And they met a dwarf there. And this dwarf said, "Oh, friends, there's a very special place. You've done a great service for those of us who trace our lineage back to the ancient dwarven kingdom of Besselmere. There is a shrine there. This shrine is called the Shrine of the Tender Oath, and it is sacred to Sharindlar, who is the dwarven goddess of fertility and love. This Shrine of the Tender Oath is a place of rest, contemplation, and enjoyment for the spirit, for all dwarves and those who are their sworn friends. I name you friends of the dwarves. Here, take this sealed parchment and travel up the river, and when you see a certain bend, pull over. Going past a certain outcropping, you will find stairs leading up. Follow those, and they will take you to the Shrine of the Tender Oath." Alright, hey everybody, this is DM Galabond, and what you have just heard is maybe, potentially, possibly, who knows, one way that your party members may hear about the Vale of Dancing Waters. This is Lore Friday for Friday, October 23rd, 2020. And Vale of Dancing Waters is an adventure that's keyed for an 8th level party out of the Princes of the Apocalypse campaign. And what's nice about this one is that this is not directly related and also not directly unrelated to the main quest of the party, but it does shed a little bit of light on the kingdom of Besselmere, the ruins of which the cultists of the different evil elemental powers have gone ahead and taken over for their temples and for their strongholds. So let's go ahead and take a look at this particular adventure here. Vale of Dancing Waters. It's a sacred place rumored to once hold the summer palace of Besselmere's Dwarven King. It's a place of contemplation and worship. And there is a shrine within this vale called the Shrine of the Tender Oath, a retreat that is dedicated to Sharindlar. And unbeknownst to the party, but knownst to the DM, an Oni named Obratu and a Durgar named Rulek discovered evidence of the lost cellars of King Torhild Flametongue's summer palace. And they have a map and journal entries that they've recovered that suggest two possible entrances. One is in close proximity to the Shrine of the Tender Oath. So Rulek, the Duragar, opted to go to the subterranean, and guess what? Also unbeknownst to the party, but known to the DM, he died. So he is an ex-Duragar. But the Oni has made a deal with a dwarf, a unscrupulous dwarf treasure hunter named Grumnik, and some of his renegade miners. And they have snuck into the shrine, overpowered the worshippers who were there, and they've begun digging. Just messing the place up. And leaving a lot of stinky bodies around. So, the setup is kind of a potential scene like I described to you before. It has to be a dwarf acquaintance that offers the characters passage to the Vale of Dancing Waters, and it doesn't really matter which. Could be somebody who's infirm and needs, the supposed healing waters from this place, or it could be someone who is perhaps descended from Besselmere in my little scenario, and wants to basically give the party a chance to catch their breath after some harried adventures, and offers them safe passage to this place. Basically, sealed documents that the inhabitants and the guards there will realize, oh, they have been sent by one of our own. They could be allowed to be in there because normally non-dwarves aren't welcome in this place. So where you find this is you find this off a bend in a river, and you come to it through this little uh, zigzag stairway up here. And there's a shrine entrance, and that may be guarded, and it may not be guarded. It kind of depends on what um, what you what the scenario happens while they are on this path, and we'll get to that in a few moments. Um, then the Oni and the dwarves are over here trying to dig into the wall, um, but you have to find your way back up these stairs and into the upper level. There's some stuff going on in here. There's this big statue here. There's a little shrine over here, and all that kind of fun stuff. So let's go ahead and step our way through this and see what we find here. So the switchbacks, steep flight of steps cut into the side of the gorge, and then after 20 steps, the stairs turn in a narrow path that follows switchbacks. And there's when they get 2/3 of the way up at a switchback turnaround, there is a tripwire, and the PCs don't know about the tripwire. Presumably, whoever led them here didn't tell them about it. And the tripwire is not deadly, but it does set off a loud alarm if it's tripped. Now, you can either try to disarm it, which is tricky, or you can trip over it, which sets it off, or you can just step over it because it's 2 inches off the ground. So, all depends on whether the party detects it, and then they can figure out what they want to do. And when springing a tripwire, it tumbles a boulder along with some smaller stones and gravel down the path. Failing a dex save means that they get hit by the boulder and take 1d4 bludgeoning damage, not a lot. Failing badly means they actually get knocked off and fall 30 feet, taking 3d6 of damage in addition to the bludgeoning damage. And then if you cut the tripwire, it triggers the trap. The only way of disarming the trap is to be extremely careful, figure out where the trap goes, basically figure out how to shore up the boulder that gets released before you cut the wire so that it doesn't go off. All right. Shrine entrance is at this big area too. I'm just going to do this. Yeah. So shrine entrance is at D2. And if you bypassed the trap or you disarmed the trap, there are guards there. If you tripped the trap, then the guards have gone in to warn other people and something else is going on. So the guards may be standing here and there's only 2 of them, so you can take them out. And the guards are pretty low level things. They're challenge rating 1/8. So for 8th level characters, they're not much of a challenge at all. And in addition, or in one change is that instead of spears and shields, they have two-handed warhammers that they wield, and so it changes their AC to 14. Uh, then in the courtyard, this courtyard here is open to the sky, so there's no roof on it, and there's hammering somewhere north of the courtyard and above, and that is in the area of course, D7 over here. So there's windows 20 feet up that look into D7, and if the dwarves were warned by triggering the trap, there is a supposed wedding ceremony happening here. The wedding ceremony is happening right around this statue of the dwarven goddess that we talked about before. And there is a female dwarf officiating, which is not a dwarf at all. It is the Oni using the guise of a spell. I believe it's a change shape, so that it uses. So they will invite the party members to be more guests for the wedding ceremony, and as the party members get close, suddenly they all draw weapons and attack. And the party may or may not notice, depending on their passive or active perception checks. So there's then this dormitory area here, D4, where the normal worshippers lived. And there's a grisly discovery in the southwest room. So the southwest room over here is where they have dumped all the bodies. So as you get close to this door, ooh, that smell. And the dwarves have been dead for around a 10-day. So then there's the chapel. And the chapel is over in D5, and this tiny little chapel is dedicated to Sharinlar. And there is a silver chain worth 25 gold pieces tangled on one of the braziers. Then there's the Hall of Vows. And in D6, there's carvings along the walls of dwarves, pairs of dwarves engaged in different rituals. Rituals of romance, love, and even passion. Dwarves depicted in rituals of passion. I'm not sure I want to see that. I'm not sure you could unsee that. That just seems ugh. Okay, all right. So leaning against the corner behind Western Brazier is a +1 great axe. That's a little bit more than just your average great axe. And the axe has Dethic runes on it, and those runes read a beacon in the dark. And while you are carrying the axe, you always know the way to the direction to the nearest passage, or no, you know the way to the nearest passage leading from underground towards the surface, and you know the approximate depth that the axe is underground. So you know if you're 50 feet underground, 150 feet, a mile, whatever. Then you go to the temple. Temple itself is a large ceremonial chamber, steps rise to a wide alcove, and there's windows in the south wall overlooking that courtyard down below. And Grumnick and his team are here hard at work trying to dig through the stone behind the altar. And depending on whether or not the party have been quiet up to this point, and if they didn't alert people coming up the path, they might find everybody hard at work. And if that's the case, then this Grumnick thinks that the party are competitors. But it doesn't matter. He still wants to kill them anyway. Um, and there's also a blue-skinned ogre with him, which is the Oni. And for those of you who are not familiar, D&D 5e, this is an Oni. Um, Oni are creatures out of Oriental legend. I think they're like either Japanese ogres or Japanese demon spirits. It's interesting that going back through the old D&D source book, it says that Oni are Japanese or Oriental ogres, but in the Magic the Gathering lore for Kamigawa, it refers to them as demons. Now, I don't know if it makes a whole lot of difference. You know, Wizards of the Coast can do whatever they want. They can call it a demon, they can call it an ogre, they can call it whatever. Um, but it is interesting that in the two different IPs from the same company, they have basically two different origins for what the Oni are. That's just an interesting side note. All right, so your Grumnik the Renegade is the leader of all these dwarves, and there's a fight, and he is the one that has those maps and everything. But the party is able to determine that the maps and the notes are all fakes. So what they were looking for is not here at all. And there's the Oni has a map, or not a map, but a scrap of paper written in common from his erstwhile companion. And then at the end of this little side adventure, the party are, you know, the DM is encouraged to introduce some dwarves who came here for the purpose of worshiping. And once the party reveals what has happened here, those dwarves will, you know, lay their um, companions to rest if they haven't been, do the proper burial rituals and everything. And the party um, is allowed to rest up if they need to, and then otherwise sent on their way. So that is the Vale of Dancing Waters, and it, like I said, it's not directly connected to the plot, and it doesn't, uh, you know, because of the fact that the maps that these guys are following are false, it doesn't even give you like a potential backdoor to get into the main temple. But it does fill in a little bit of the culture and the ideas and the lifestyles, at least of the religious folk among the dwarves of Old Besselmere. So that's kind of an interesting way to look at this one. What I really like about this adventure is I really like the nice little self-contained map. I mean, there's so much you could do with this. Make it very easy to drop this thing into a homebrew campaign. And you could even go off of the information that's in this adventure and do something like and say, well, no, really, in where I'm putting this, there really is an entrance to some sort of secret underground thing. And this could be kind of a gateway to the Underdark or a gateway to fighting monsters in lower level crypts. So keep that in mind, because if you're going to take it to a homebrew game, you can just strip out all the monsters, everything, and just put into it whatever you think would be appropriate for a party at your particular adventuring level. All right. This concludes our discussion of the Vale of Dancing Waters. I have been DM Galabond. This has been Lore Friday. Thank you guys for stopping by and checking us out. If you like everything we're doing here on the channel, please click the subscribe button. Please like the video, share the video, and click that post notification bell so that you will get notified every time new content drops on the channel. And after having said that, I think that's just going to do it. So, all I will do is wish you very good night. Bye bye, everybody.